I'm Sierra. This is Let's Talk About It. So this week I'm going to be talking about the story about how I met my dad. I'm excited for this video. It may be a little hard to tell, but I'm going to do it the best way that I can. Some things I won't add in the video just for reasons, but yeah, hopefully I'll give like a good gist of what happened. So this is gonna be a part one, and then we're gonna have a part two. So part one is my life like before I met my dad and also during that season, and part two will be like after I met my dad and how life has been since. I'm 22 right now, and I met my dad almost exactly a year ago. And so growing up, I think that like everybody else's story, there's identity issues, not only in like not having a father present, but you know, my dad is black, my mom is white, and so I think that there was just a lot of things that my sister and I were not exposed to that could have been beneficial, but you know, the Lord knows best. My life panned out the way it was supposed to. So basically the story on how I met him is my sister and I, a couple years ago, we were at Christmas with some friends. The guy there, he asked like, hey, are you related to somebody else in like our church community, because he has the same last name and is also from Detroit. And we're like, no, I never met him, I don't know. But we were like open to meeting him, but we actually never set that up until like months down the line. So my sister one day, she called me and she was like, hey, I'm actually meeting that guy for coffee to see if we're related. And I was like, okay, like it was all real fast. And I was like, well, I'm gonna stay home, but let me Google some names for you so you can be like, hey, are we in the same family? I knew some people's names on my dad's side of the family because growing up, my mom used to talk about them. Basically, when I seen Delano's name, I recognized like, oh, we're related, like I recognize his name. And so I was like, I wonder what he's doing in his life. And so I went on Facebook, and this is all in the span of about 5 minutes. I went on Facebook and I was like, wow, like look at my cousin go, like he does his own little thing, and if you watching, how you doing? It was just so cool, like seeing this is like my cousin. I don't know what came over me, must have been the Holy Spirit, I don't know. But basically, and with a split second, I said, hey, are you related to Alan? And Alan's my dad. And I sent him a picture of him holding my older sister. And he was like, yeah, that's my uncle or something like that. And I was trying to be a little incognito because like this isn't gonna be how I'm gonna meet my dad, but like I'm just curious. But you know, curiosity killed that cat. And so I was like, well, I guess we're cousins because that's my dad. My heart was beating in my chest because I was like, oh my gosh, I did something that I've been thinking about doing for 22 years, and like I can't believe I just did this. And so he didn't respond. It must have been like 2 minutes, but to me, I was like, I just ruined everything. He thinks this is so weird. I just hit up a random stranger and was like, we family? Like, it's just so awkward. But he was like, I just talked to your dad on the phone. He wants you to call him right now. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then he sent me my dad's number. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for this. I wasn't even, I did not wake up that morning thinking I was gonna be talking to my biological dad. I also was supposed to be leaving for work in like 10 minutes. And so I just step out on my front porch and I called him, and it must have rang for like 4 times. I was like, I know this man's waiting on the other line. He's just letting it ring. And then he answered and he goes like, hello? And I'm like, hello? And then he's like, hello? And then I just start crying, and then he starts crying, and then we're both crying. I was a mess for about the rest of the year. And he was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, I can't believe this. I was like, me either. We just sat on the phone for literally about a minute and a half to 2 minutes because he had, he's a barber, so he had a client coming in. He was like, call me later. I said, okay. Like, I pretty much didn't say anything. He didn't really say anything either. We just sat there like, blah, 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 like, crying and stuff. I called Melanie, and Melanie was like, I can't talk to you right now because I'm trying to figure out if we're related to these people. I was like, well, girl, I just met our dad. And she was like, huh? I was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know I was gonna do it. It was just 1, 2, 3, and then and she goes to the people and she was like, I'm gonna have to talk to you later because apparently my sister just met our dad. And so then, you know, I had to go to work and I had to act like a normal human being who just met their dad for the first time. This is uncharted territory. Like, it's not every day you meet your biological dad. My whole story, like when I tell my testimony, like who I am, is kind of starts off with fatherlessness. That's kind of like the string in my life. The phrase dad feels weird in my mouth. Like, I just never had one. And now I have one. But then just because you helped make somebody doesn't make you a dad. So do I still have one? My whole story, like from the beginning, not my whole story, but definitely had to do with how I didn't know my dad and how that it does affect every aspect. And I think before I definitely felt like a statistic of how many black children don't get to grow up with their dad, but now I know him. So what does that mean to me? What does that mean for my own story? I think I struggled with that a little bit, but I realized that like who I am is who I am. I've already developed. I'm the primitive years of my life, he wasn't there. Not to say that I wouldn't want him there, but my life already had gone how it was gonna go. I think I'm still trying to understand. I was a mess. Still thinking back at it, I'm just like, wow. Like, it was just a whirlwind of a week. We told our mom about probably the next day. If it wasn't the same day, it was probably the next day. Honestly, out of probably everybody, my mom's the most supportive of everything, which is amazing. She really, like, anytime there's issues, she listen, but then is also like, you know, I think it's great that you get to know your dad. You know, my mom got to grow up with both of her parents, and so it was just really awesome that, you know, my mom did what she felt like she needed to do growing up, and my mom did her very best, you know, raising us. And I think another thing I realized meeting my dad is how grateful I was for everything I was given growing up, the family I did have. And I did feel like meeting my dad was the final chapter of my childhood just coming to a close. Like I said, I'm 22. And that was just kind of like the last question I had in my childhood growing up, and it happened. And so now here we are. So next week we'll share a little bit more about how the last year's been knowing him. Any hoodle, like, subscribe, do all the things you know you got to do for these videos. I hope you appreciate this new background because you know I do. So anyways, bye.